And welcome to the Sean and Renee Talk Show. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your co-host, T. Renee.
And I am Nisha LaShawn.
Today, we will be discussing, which is kind of near and dear to our hearts, the auntie with no kids. Now, she and I both do not have children. So this is a topic that we can talk about extensively because when you're single and the kids want to come to your house, the kids want to hang out with you, the kids want to be around you, we know a lot about that. Whether it's family members, other people's kids, youth ministries, you become that auntie that they can't necessarily tell their parents what's going on, but ding, 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 you've been tapped in. They want to come talk to you because, one, they trust you. They know their confidence is going to be kept. And then they know they feel safe in the conversation. So we're going to discuss that today of being the auntie with no kids.
Two. But they heavyweight, child.
Yes.
They some heavyweight.
Yes.
It's only two of them, but them three sisters,
they
run the family.
They ain't nothing to play with.
They run the family. And I'm just thinking back on all of the years and how the women have done everything.
Mm-hmm.
The women have truly done everything. Now, I don't want it to be one of those conversations to where, because we know men love to think somebody trying to bash them.
It's not that.
This is not a bashing.
No.
This is us highlighting women and the role that they play in motherhood, regardless of the fact if they actually birth the children themselves.
Right.
Okay. When I say women do everything, women do everything.
Right.
Seen and unseen.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the things that go unseen.
Yes.
Things that women do that I think men feel like it just appear in the air sometimes.
Right.
But it's not to this.
No.
Because I'm pretty sure on the day when we talking to men and the uncles, it's going to be some unseen things that us women don't see that they contribute
Absolutely.
to the family. So
Absolutely.
Please don't take it as a bashing.
No.
This is just not your moment, so hush. Now, as far as aunties, going back to my childhood, seeing my mom manage the children with the sisters and how the sisters all come together to figure out how to raise not just their kids, but each other's.
Right.
Everybody was put in the same pot. These are our kids.
Right.
You know how Lion King, the OG cartoon Lion King, is coming to mind right now. How all of the women lioness, were together.
Yes.
And all rearing the kids together. And it was just such a camaraderie between the women back then when it came to making sure that the kids were together.
Yep.
The aunties play a huge role in that because I'm trying to figure out how to say it because people are so sensitive with these things. People are so sensitive, especially these days.
Just say it.
The aunties a lot of times are that independent party outside of the parent bubble.
Yes.
That be seeing the BS.
Yes.
And able to say, sis, what you doing right there?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go catch up to you. That's gonna get you.
Right.
Take the advice.
Mm-hmm.
we used to be able to do that.
Right.
Without offense. What I've been seeing lately is people online saying, I don't have any help. I don't have anyone. I don't have any community to lean on. And then the next post you'll see, can't nobody tell me nothing about my kids. Don't tell me what to do. I got this. Don't nobody talk to me when it comes to... I don't know what the expectation is anymore when it comes to, building community that way.
And like you said, when we were growing up, like my aunt is my mom's youngest sister. She would come up every summer. Mm-hmm. My mom would send for her to come up every summer. I was with her all day while my mom, basically she was the babysitter, which was cool because she's like a big sister to me. Mm-hmm. But she would come up every summer. We would hang out, we would do stuff, and just, build that relationship. But it's like you said, when you try to engage, and this is not with everybody, because I have friends, because I'm an only child. So my experience is a little bit different because I got aunties that weren't biologically, that were rearing me. So I had the neighbor, a lot of church members, you know what I'm saying, that stepped in that gap because, that came along and was like, I'm taking her under my wing. I see something in her that I want to make sure that I harness that. And then my mama was one of those women that she made sure that every child that came in contact with her knew that they were protected, knew that nothing was going to happen to them on her watch. And she always was kind. You know what I'm saying? You miss that kindness, from people because like you just said, people say they don't have help. But then in your next breath, you saying, don't nobody say nothing to my kids. Mm-hmm. You say something to my kids and it's going to be a problem. Okay, well, which one is it?
Which one do you want?
Even when the kids go to school, can the teacher say something to your kid? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, but you want that sense of community because I have young people in my life where they'll come to me and they want, like, they can't go to their parent. Mm-hmm. And that's fine because some things parents, they don't listen with open ears. They're looking at, this is my child. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put my belief on you. But the child is like, my parent isn't hearing me, or they're not dissecting what I need them to help me with. And so on that part, I have kids that come to me and they just want just somebody to listen and just give them advice on handling situations. So that's where the auntie part comes in. It's like, okay, I'm going to help you through this. Now break everything down to me. Because for me, I'm a problem solver. That's just my personality. If you come to me with an issue, I'm going to work with you to solve it. So when the kids come to me, they're going to lead with sound advice. And I'm going to make sure that they understand now, ultimately, your decision is your decision. But over here, I'm going to give you the tools to make sure, again, you don't have to learn anything the hard way. But there are some children that's their MO, the hard way. But I'm telling you, because I say the age gap is not that difference. It might be the difference of 15 to 20 years. Like, I've been your age, you haven't been my age. And I hate to say that because my parents used to say that to me. I hate that phrase. But it's a true statement. It's like, you haven't been my age, but I've been yours. And I know it's hard for the kids because of social media. When we was growing up, especially for me, social media wasn't as heavy.
And kids these days, they're getting too much information.
Oh, they overstimulated. They're so overstimulated.
Too much for us, we were fed the information in phases.
Right.
You got a certain amount of information by the time you were 13. Then you got a little more at 16. Then you got a little more at 18. Then you got a little more at 21.
Right.
By the time you was 25, it was like, you were able to phase into growth. Now, by the time you give a kid a cell phone,
if you give them one at like 7 or 8,
it's a wrap.
They are open to the whole world, and then they coming home with
all kind of questions.
And you just be like, where did you get this from and who told you? And it's the phone, because they have information readily at their fingertips. And it's just like, how do you get them to understand, okay, you just 7, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Do not worry about the price of groceries. You don't have a job, baby.
Don't worry about all that. Now, I do want to ask you a question, though, and go back to the community auntie, because we want to break this down so there's no confusion, because there's different kinds of aunties. It's the community auntie.
Yes.
Then we had the biological auntie.
Yes.
You know, so the community auntie, how you were speaking about that neighbor that could call your mom and say, yeah, okay, I done got it together. Just want to give you a heads up.
And she gonna get me together.
Now you waiting on part 2.
Because it's always a part 2.
It's always a part 2.
It's always a part 2.
So do you think the disconnect comes from the adults not having a relationship? Because in order for her to feel comfortable enough to rear you in that way, she had to have the relationship to be able to make that phone call to mom and say, do you know what's so-and-so? Because, you know, you grew up in that generation, and I did too, you know, the latter end of it. After me, like, it was pretty much over with. But neighbors actually talk to each other. You could borrow a cup of sugar from that neighbor. For sure. You knew who lived down the street, what their grandmama name was. Yep. You knew the children. They played on the block together. Absolutely. So it was just an understanding, like an unspoken understanding. Like, on this street, we protect the kids. Absolutely. You know, I know Miss So-and-so is good people. Yep. I'm going to let her know the street lights were on and your baby was walking down the street. Right. And it was literally, actually, when I was growing up, it was literally the neighborhood. Like, you knew who lived on the next block. My mama was just talking about that. She was like, back then, you knew people blocks. Yes. Over. Not just the block. Yep. Blocks over. Yes. You knew the neighborhood. Absolutely. That's true. So I think an element of that, too, is that people overall have this disconnect. Yes. And have thrown away with the idea of creating community. Yes. And if you don't have community, then you lose the authority. Correct. You lose the authority to address the kid. Yes. And you lose those other set of eyes, because mom and daddy can't be everywhere. No, they can't. All the time. Nope. Every time. Nope. That's just not how it goes. Nope. I want to know why parents these days don't find it important to develop a community. From what I'm seeing is that, and I've had this conversation many times with my dad, and I told him, I said, when you guys came from the South, when literally the whole family probably lived on the same road. Like, you could run down the road, you at your uncles, you at your aunties, you at your grandmamas. I said, and y'all moved up north. I said, y'all took some of that with y'all, where, yes, you were kind and friendly with the neighbors, and y'all hung out and had car parties and all that type of stuff. And you wasn't worried about too many people, and the kids could be there and they playing in the basement or outside or whatever. But in them doing that, when they raised us, it was a disconnect between us and the next generation. I said, somewhere along that line, where when people my age started having kids, it started being closed off. Nobody wanted to be friends with the neighbors. Nobody wanted to be, oh, you can come over to my house. And I think it's a situation of several things. I think economics, drugs. I was just thinking how the crack era did us in. You couldn't trust nobody. You don't know who was smoking it, and if they was gonna steal your TV. Yep. And we had this conversation many times. I said it was a break. I said it was a lot of breaks in that. I said from
me into the current generation, I said it started with y'all. I said, because I said, y'all got here and said, well, I'm not raising my kids how my parents raised me because it was kind of rough. And some of it was because parenting is on the job training.
So I'll give my dad, for example. He really couldn't stand the South and what it represented in his life. So he struggled to maintain, like you said, those traditions.
Right.
Because in his mind, the South was Jim Crow.
Yes.
The South was oppression. The South was disadvantage. The South was, racist encounters. It wasn't the community.
Right.
The camaraderie.
Right.
The connections amongst Black folks.
Yep.
Those things were not on the forefront.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to even place judgment or wonder why, because once you come out of a traumatic experience.
Absolutely. You doing
the
everything.
Trauma is at the forefront of your brain. It's sitting on top of your forehead.
And you're doing everything possible not to go back there.
Not to go back. And when you're pushing down and trying to cover up certain traumas, everything that's linked to that environment can oftentimes be pushed down too.
Yes, because
the good and the bad.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to be your trigger at that point.
Right.
And so that's why I said it's not their fault, but I say that's where the disconnect started.
Okay. So, Aunties, the space and community that Aunties had, being able to call up they homegirl on the block and say your kid wasn't home on time when the street lights came on.
Yep. They was down here by me.
I'm
watching them, and I'm finna send them on their way.
I'm sending them on their way. We lost that as a result of the loss in community.
Correct.
And the loss in community came from a lot of cultural mishaps.
Yeah, that's why I said economics, drugs.
It's a whole rabbit hole.
It is, and it's get deep because it's just like people not being aware of how people are acting. And then on top of that, if there's drugs involved, like, are you touching kids? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's so let's touch on that, because people love to say that folks crazy these days. Human trafficking. Yes. And this is unfortunately the result of too much information at once.
Absolutely.
Because unaliving somebody.
Yes.
Forcing yourself on somebody.
Yes.
Forcing yourself on little kids.
Yes.
We on social media, so we try not to say the words.
Yes.
Kidnapping.
Yes.
Trafficking.
Yep. Because we can go back to Adam. Remember, that's America's Most Wanted, the guy. He started America's Most Wanted because his son Adam got kidnapped.
These are not new things.
Right.
If you go back to the 70s, kidnapping kids was on the rise.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And there were serial kidnappers.
Yes.
At that time, too.
Because remember the Atlanta child murders.
Right. These are not new things.
Right.
We have this information at our fingertips all day and every day.
Right.
And thinking back on it, ignorance was bliss.
Right.
Because my mom felt comfortable allowing me to be out until the street lights came on.
Right.
Because there wasn't a knowing
that all this was going on.
All this was going on.
Yes.
At the same time.
Right.
You only knew Mr. So-and-so lived there. He retired vet. Grandma over here. This person over here. You only knew what you knew.
Yep. And Miss Bell, she at the church. She baked the cakes and get the kids candy. And when I was growing up, it was a candy lady in the neighborhood.
You had the penny candy house.
Yes.
That you could go to. As a matter of fact, we knew the drug dealers.
Yes.
And they bought us ice cream.
Yes, they did.
The drug dealers was going to buy us ice cream. We knew. And it's like, thinking back how the community was like a whole ecosystem in that way.
And they made sure, hey, leave them kids alone.
Leave them kids alone.
It was laws in place, like...
it was boundaries.
Yes, that weren't crossed.
Yes, that were not crossed.
Yeah.
You know, it was rules. Don't serve these kids. These kids belong to Miss so-and-so. Mm-hmm. I can't do that to her. Like, yes. It was certain rules and regulations. And even in that, I'm wondering, like, how did this not get passed on? Yeah. You know, because none of this is new under the sun.
But like we said, it's a disconnect somewhere with trust.
Right.
Trust is
Who broke the trust?
Yes. And I think that's what we have to figure out, where that trust was broken, because ideally, when parents are able to feel comfortable leaving their kids with someone else, there's a trust level there that, you know, if I send my baby to Lisa's house, I know my baby gonna eat. Mm-hmm. Nobody's gonna bother them. Mm-hmm. I ain't got to worry about if they get out of line. Lisa ain't gonna do nothing but get them together. Mm-hmm. And if it's a problem past Lisa getting them together, I'm gonna get a phone call. So somewhere that trust has been broken, because that's not happening today. I see people hardly ever letting their kids go past maybe some family member. Mm-hmm. And then, too, it's some restrictions on that, because, you know, Monique be over there with that foolishness and her boyfriend. You know what I'm saying?
It's a combination of somebody broke the trust. Yep. And the access to too much information all at once.
Because I've been seeing on social media people like Gen Z and Alpha, they been asking, like, did y'all really drink from water hoses? Did y'all really have to be home by the street lights? Did parents really not know where their kids was?
We were outside without a cell phone. Yes. Mama couldn't call me.
No.
And track my location.
No.
It was me and a bike.
Yes. Against the world.
I didn't have no Stanley Cup.
Nope.
Okay, there was no Stanley Cup that kept your ice cold all day.
Nope.
You got that water hose. You let it run for a second. Make sure there were no ants and bugs in the pipe.
Right.
And that's it. And you kept it moving.
It was me and my bike against the world.
Against the world.
And then if something was wrong with my bike, it was me and my 2 feet against whatever block that I was going.
World domination.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I see them asking, like, well, did parents really not know where their kids were?
No.
In essence, no, they didn't.
They didn't.
They just knew we were outside playing. But we knew when it started to get dark, you better be within a block of where you need to be so you could be at home.
Please don't let that street light beat you.
Not at all. My cousins lived down the street from us when we initially stayed. Mm-hmm. I used to ride my big wheel down their house every day. And then when my mom would come and get me, she would be like, okay, it's time to go. Yeah. I'll be racing my mama on my big wheel to go back home. So it's just like that part of it, when you had your cousins and you went over their houses and hung out, that part of it is just like I said, that trust was broken somewhere.
And it had to be a sense of trust between the women, because again, the women did the rearing.
Absolutely.
So it was the extra aunties in the community that was able to be a secure set of eyes, that I'm able to depend on you and you can depend on me. So at a certain point, there was a sense of trust that was broken, and I can't pinpoint where, and it gotta be an accumulation of things.
Because at the same time, these women, you will see them, and they would seem like they would be cool. Mm-hmm. But then we know it was a lot of ripping and running. Yeah. And I'm not gonna say a man is the issue, but 9 times out of 10, a man is the issue.
Okay. Because we started off saying we ain't gonna bash them just about the aunties. So we say that for another episode.
I'm just, I'm putting that out there sometimes.
Yeah, we gotta lay out the facts now.
Yeah, because that's how when the funeral come and
Sheila and Shirley going at it.
Because they got a child by the same man. So
and one got the insurance policy and one
did, So that could be part of the trust being broken.
Okay, so let's talk about that too.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship between the women,
Mm-hmm.
there was an understanding that, girl, we both need this man to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
I may be the wife and you on the other end, but we both gonna use this man to maintain our lives.
Yeah.
Women don't necessarily need men in that way.
No.
So why do I have to keep this respect boundary up for you as another woman? Because literally that other woman on the outside, some wives will put up with it because they knew that other woman was attaching because of survival. So a lot of times it wasn't love.
Right.
It wasn't. In most cases, it was not just because they were madly in love with that man.
No.
He was a provider and he had the willingness to provide if I gave him what he wanted.
For 2 households, yes.
For 2 households.
Yep.
But now, that element of need to survive is gone. So now, I'm about to just beat you up. And we just beefing.
And it's on site when I see it.
It's on site because my bills is going to be paid either way. You're getting stumped out.
Yes.
So maybe that could be it. I mean, I never thought about it like that, but that does bring up a valid point. I got nothing to lose.
Yes.
If I knock you upside your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I said the trust it's been damaged somewhere. And I hate that women, we go that route in a certain sense now. Yeah. It's more combative and aggressive.
It is competitive, very competitive.
Very competitive. Because it's like we have to take accountability. Like, if you have an issue with a woman, make sure it's valid.
Yeah.
Not because you mad because of how she's living, or you mad because of how her man treat her. And then you take it upon yourself and be like, well, I'm finna go find out. That's how our relationships continue to be damaged. Just like we have to move as a unit.
So is this why? Okay, this is another question. Women are struggling to maintain long-term relationships.
Yes.
So how can I be an auntie to your children and even get to that point of having a place in your community if I'm switching out new friends every New Year's?
Now, this is true.
Every New Year's, I'm just cleaning house. I'm just getting rid of everybody.
I'm cutting everybody off. And I'll just be looking like...
Every year you cut people off.
But can we just take accountability and say, it's me? Because what I'm seeing is...
It's me?
Yes. Hi. It's like you got to take accountability. If you are insecure in areas of your life, then instead of projecting that onto the women that you know will be helpful to you in your life with your children, address it with yourself. Take accountability and be like, you know what? I'm feeling some type of way how my kids react when they see such and such. I don't like that they be so geeked up. But on the flip side of it, why are they geeked up to see her?
Okay. So
it's like taking the ego out of it, because really, what has this woman actually done to you other than be kind to you and be there for your kids?
I think...
Because I've seen it on both sides where women have felt threatened because their kids are closer to their friend. And then I've seen on the other side where the friend is like happy, like, thank God. Please help me with these children. They grabbing me up a wall. They won't stop asking me questions.
So I'm thinking about my cousin. I'm thinking about Reed. And how she was when I came around. She was like that, like, please take one of them. Which one you taking? Pick anyone. Like, come on, go there.
Yeah.
Come on. Jeez, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, so these might be personal issues, like personal individual struggles.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't know how to receive help,
right,
it got to be an insecurity as to why you can't receive help, why you're offended by help. I'm confused as to why you're not comfortable with your children having multiple safe spaces.
Right.
Why is it an offense to you? And it has to be a personal thing.
Yeah.
It has to be something that you got to work on as an individual to figure out why your feelings are hurt that your children have other people to lean on.
I agree.
Again, you can't be everywhere at once.
And we have to get back to it takes a village.
It takes a village. And y'all quick to say about this whole burnout.
Yes.
You just said the other day you burnt out and you're tired.
Yep.
But at the same time, you don't want to utilize the help that you have and you're offended by the help. That's a hard conundrum.
It is.
I need answers.
You know what?
We need a mama to be able to break that down.
Yes, because I don't understand it. Like I said, I've seen it on both sides.
Me too.
I've seen it on both sides, and then I don't understand it, but the thing I didn't do is ask why. Why do you feel away?
I've never personally experienced that. All the moms that I know, they're like, please take that little thing.
Yeah.
I am tired. So I haven't experienced like that with my cousins. Any of them with kids to say like, no, I don't want it to happen. But I know of it and I know it's a real thing. So I haven't been in proximity to ask like, why are you behaving this way?
Right.
This is quite ludicrous.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want help?
Right.
Free sitter, like they're volunteering to
take your kids. Yeah.
Are they in danger?
Right.
Do you feel like there is a danger?
Right.
Do you feel like they will not be treated fairly? Or are they in proximity to somebody that you feel will not treat them fairly? Like, okay, I have a best friend. They're willing to take my kids, but I don't like her boyfriend.
Right.
You know, that's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, because it's variable.
You know, her dad lives with her or somebody. She got sons. I don't want my daughters going over there.
Right.
That's a boundary thing.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the women who get mad.
Yes, big mad.
You know, they ready to break the relationship off because their children has an affinity for somebody other than them.
Right.
It's a little obsessive when you think about it.
Yeah.
Too.
But like I said, I've seen it both ways. And I've never asked why. Why do you feel that way?
I want to know why too, mothers. We need a mama to be able to give us an explanation on that. Like, why do you not want the auntie?
Yeah.
Why are you offended by the thought of a community auntie?
Yeah, because I haven't had an issue. Like, even my community aunties, I still keep in contact with them. I've never had where my mama felt threatened because she already knew I was her favorite person. And if you ask me, who you going with? I'm going with my mama. But it's just like, I just feel like that part of it, like I said, somewhere that trust has been broken. And I just don't know how we can get back there because, like, I have a good relationship with a lot of young people and they know they can come and talk to me. They know they can call me and ask me anything. So I've seen people that I know react in different ways, but I never stopped to ask them why. You feel that way.
Why.
Yeah.
You have to figure out why.
Yeah. And I don't think it should be a threat to your parenthood. I feel like the more people you can have help you steer kids in the right direction, I think it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
But again, we ain't got kids.
Yeah.
And that's a personal choice.
That is a personal choice. But I wish we had a mom to probe and pick their brain to give us some perspective.
That's gonna be the part 2 of this. We're gonna sit down with a mama.
We need a mama to say, hey, this is why we struggle.
Yes.
This is why I get offended.
Yes.
And somebody that's gonna be honest and really, be transparent.
Yeah, because it's like, don't view the auntie without kids as a threat.
Yeah.
We're the assistant. We're there to help. We are there to double down on what you're saying because it's like parents gotta understand kids hear wah 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 wah.
It's really the same voice.
It's really Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
When you talk to them. I
heard this voice all day long, fussing all day.
My entire life. But when they hear it from a different person with a different delivery, sometimes they lock in. They be like, you know what? I ain't even think about it like that. I don't know how many times I've heard that. I never thought about that. I never thought of it like that. And it's not so much that I said anything different from what the parents said. It's just that the delivery was different. And the messenger was different. The messenger
matters.
Yes, it does.
The messenger does matter.
So
so we got the neighborhood community auntie, the friend adjacent auntie. So let's talk about the biological auntie.
Yes. That's your player partner. that's the one that
to the grave.
Yes, that's your player partner. That's the one that get you like, okay, I'm gonna take you to this party, but you better be out here. If I say I'm coming to get you at 10 o'clock, you better be standing on the curb at 9:45.
So the biological aunties.
Yes.
Number one, safe haven.
Yes.
The added mothering.
Yes.
Because as human beings, especially, let me backtrack. Human beings in general, we don't have everything every time.
No.
We don't have the capacity for everything every time. And that includes parenting.
Right.
So you may be a mom of a 16-year-old, but you don't have the capacity to parent a 16-year-old.
Right.
You may have the capacity to parent a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
But you know what? 16 might just be a hard year.
16 is taking you up and through there, and you're ready to strangle a person.
That 12 months of 16 as you going through it.
Yeah.
You don't always have it.
No.
So if you have that biological auntie that's willing to come in and help and be a support to mom and say, you know what? I may not be able to get conversation out of my 16-year-old, but my sister can.
Or if the kid goes to the aunt and be like, Auntie,
what's going on with your sister?
My mama is just, she going, I don't know if it's work. I don't know what's going on. Can you please talk to her? The auntie, the biological sister can usually go to the mom and be like, sis, what you got going on? My baby's is afraid of you. They say you was on 10 and they walking eggshells. What's going on? And it's kind of that in between that you need. It's like you are the mediator. That biological is that mediator between the mother and the child. It's just like you need that mediation.
And I'm thinking about just like my own personal testimony. I said in the beginning, you know, it was my mom and a team of aunties. My daddy ain't do no child rearing. Okay, he was on discipline, rear, nothing, develop nothing at all. Okay. So it was really my mom and aunts, and I'm thinking about when my brother came along, how my mom was so focused on the new baby. My sister is a teenager, almost adult at that point, doing her own thing. And she was happy she got her little boy. And it was kind of just like, okay, well, what's going on with me? Because you have this teenager that's transitioned to adulthood that need everything under the sun. And then you got this new baby, and then you got the child in the middle. And I'm thinking about how I probably would have turned out if I didn't have aunties that were paying attention to me in that time.
Right.
Because those first early developmental years, those first 10 years, those are
that's when your hormones is just like, hey, I'm here.
And those emotions stick with you for the rest of your life. Those are the foundational.
Those are the
formative years. That's your foundation. It really is who you will turn into for a lifetime.
Yes.
people have lifelong difficulties trying to reverse
Yes.
the things that happen in their formative years.
Yes, they do.
So I'm thinking about myself, how would I have turned out if I didn't have a team of people that were giving me the attention my mom didn't have the capacity to give me at that time.
Right.
And in the moment, right now, I'm thinking about it, how my mom was absent, and I didn't even realize it.
Nope, because
at that time.
Because you had that backup.
I had the backup, and I'm thinking about the summers away that I spent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going on vacation or going down south, like how I was probably is likely that those sisters saw what was going on and was like, okay, let's take this one, let her focus on those other situations. But even with her sister-in-law, my aunt on my dad's side, there was space for her. Come on, get this thing. Come get her.
Yeah. But that's why I say those biological aunts, they that mediation, they that backup. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, they come in and be like, go ahead, I got it.
Yeah, I go ahead and
I got it. You good. I see you over there. I got you, sis.
So what would it have been like if my mom was the type to see that I went on a summer vacation with my Auntie Merle?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we did this and did that together. And I'm like, I'm having a fabulous time with Auntie. Best time ever. If jealousy would have been a part of that conversation to cut those relationships off.
Knowing your mom and aunts, I couldn't fathom it.
It's not even an option for them.
But if we're speaking hypothetically, I think it would be a grave disservice and would make for a toxic environment for y'all to live in, because it's like y'all are very close knit. So y'all most of the time are having family functions. So I couldn't see them like mean mugging each other because you had a great time on a family vacation. What would that look like? Them, I can't stand, bro. Would you hear me saying that? No. Like, what kind of aggressive nastiness? I don't even see them even playing with each other like that, because it's not that. You know
I don't see it for them. Like, I don't see them being a direct example, but I think I'm just having a moment as we're talking about it.
I couldn't fathom it.
I said not even on a hypothetical.
No.
Because you know them personally.
Yeah.
But I'm just having a moment now because it's coming back to me, like what she was going through at that time frame. My sister.
But could you see your mom and her sisters being beefed out because you had a good time on a vacation?
No, not at all. Not at all. My mom was very much, like I said, pro-community. And it was her and a team of aunties. So my dad's sister was very involved and supported my mom. And then my mom had two sisters that were supportive, and all of the kids were treated as each other's kids.
Yeah.
My cousins, love my mom like a mom, and she can't get rid of them now. They grown.
Right.
50 and grandparents are their own now, and still be like, Auntie.
Yes.
So I don't see that wasn't a personal experience, but I'm just connecting the dots of how life is so intricate.
Yeah.
And just that one piece, had she not been open to the community,
right,
how it would have changed the trajectory of my life had she not been open to that.
I agree.
And I'm thinking about the disconnect with my dad at the time. My sister, moving on her own. New baby, little toddler.
Yeah.
And then me, the middle child. I'm very low key.
Yeah.
Like the non-problematic kid just in my little corner.
Yeah.
Still needed attention, but I wasn't going to be that boisterous kid. Like, hey, just acting out like, look at me.
Look at me.
Like, I need some attention. I wasn't that kid.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to notice me and just know, okay, she needs some pouring into. And I'm thinking about how those experiences develop me into a grounded young woman. But take it away, subtract it.
Yeah.
If I was to subtract those experiences with my aunties, I think I would have been a whole other person.
Okay.
I don't think I would have landed here.
That's fair. And that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think with me being the only child, my mom relied heavily on her friends, and most of them were from the church, and she trusted them.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go a lot, but I went enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they came over, so it was vice versa. They spent the night with me, I spent the night with them,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still close to this day. But I think it was just that she knew, because, we live here in Michigan. Most of my family on my mom and my dad's side live in Mississippi. So she needed somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She had that community. I'll say she had that community where my aunt would come up in the summer times until she was older, you know what I'm saying, and stay and whatever. But my youngest aunt, for the most part, she had the community. And when my aunt did come up from Mississippi, that was, like I said, that's my player partner.
Yeah.
She was more like a big sister than an aunt, because it was just like,
So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
The way I was able to process, okay, if I was to subtract the tension from the community and the biological aunties, how I could have developed into something differently. Are you able to see the connections for yourself? Like
absolutely.
If your mom was closed off to the community.
But the thing about it is, and not to toot her horn, but my mom was one of them women. I don't know what God placed in her, but she was one of them women. Like my mom, as young as I can remember, like when I was maybe 5 or 6, my mom was preparing me for life. Like she was telling me like life stuff. Like I can remember that far back, like 6 or 7, where she was just preparing me for life. So it may have been on brand because of how my life ended up being, but she was preparing me real early, like you got to make sure you can take care of yourself. This is what you do as a young lady. You know what I'm saying? She was like hammering a lot of stuff home. And I'm just like, well, I'm just a kid. Why is she on me like this? But she was preparing me. And so I'm not saying that the community that I grew up in didn't help. It just emphasized, like they doubled down on what she was teaching me. So it's not that she was closed off. She just took her job as a mother serious. Yeah. So I'll say that I don't think it would have changed too much if she was closed off. But she surrounded herself with people who would double down on her teaching. Yeah. So I think that's the difference with me, because my mom was like, I'm raising a girl, a Black girl. So I got to make sure, if anything, she going to be prepared for the rest of her life. And she started early. Period. So that was her main common theme. Like my mom was my best friend. I could talk to her about anything. So that's why when people be like, she can come with me, and I'll be like, no. I'm a mama's girl. I'm going with her. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it would have changed too much because of how she took her parenting seriously. But I can appreciate that she surrounded herself with people who doubled down on her teachings that didn't go against what she was teaching as well. Because you run into that. It's like people who teach against what's being done at home. And there's some people that will intentionally... try to derail your child. Yes, absolutely. So you definitely have to put that in play. You definitely have to have people in your life that's preaching the same sermon and not trying to derail your child and go into failure. So that was one of the big things that I appreciated. Like, everybody was on theme. Like, no, y'all gonna be young ladies. Y'all gonna carry yourself as such. Y'all not gonna be out here in the street acting a fool. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna be respectable. Y'all gonna have manners. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna conduct yourself in a particular way. You know what I'm saying? So I can say that it wouldn't have changed too much, but like I said, I appreciate her having a village of women who double down on it. You know what I'm saying?
I do have a question for you. The example that I gave with my mom, how at that point in time, that was like a clear example of somebody being in that capacity and just needed like extra people to step in. Could she have done it without the extra people? Yeah, but it wouldn't have had the same impact. The example I gave about you just at capacity with the 16-year-old, right? Just throw our age out there. And that mom who is aware she's at capacity is more willing to be open to help. My mom never opposed to help. Help is only an addition.
Right.
So for those moms who are at capacity and they are aware they are at capacity, but refuse help, that is the question we need to ask the mom.
That's a good question.
What is the reason
for declining help?
Yeah, for declining the help.
That's a good question.
To know you're at capacity and others see it and extend their hand and offer whatever.
Right.
What is the reason? Yeah.
I think that'll be our follow-up to this. We'll make sure we have a mom in the midst.
Yeah. Why would you tell an auntie no?
Yes. That's the title. Why would you tell an auntie no?
Why would you tell an auntie no?
That is a good follow-up to this episode. Why would you tell an auntie no?
Yeah.
Because that's a very valid question, because if you know you're struggling, why would you turn down help?
Right.
Yeah.
And the help comes in so many different ways. The help could be from the pediatrician that offer you resources and say, hey, this is a mom's group that meet on Saturday mornings and it's some support here. It could be a librarian that see you struggling with the kids over in the books. Like, it could be anybody that is offering help that could bring you through that particular season.
Right.
Why are so many people resistant to the help?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Cool. And with that, we're going to end this episode. We thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.